Check, check. Check, check, check. Microphone testing. One, two. Testing one, two. Okay, we're back. Microphone testing one, two. Okay, now I'm seeing my circle vibrating, so I'm sure that there's sound coming through. Wagwan, everybody. I am your Jamaican Queen, Miss Y. You are tuned into How I See It TV, and this is How I See It Live. We're talking about Wendy and Eddie Osefo, their arrest. Where were you? Where were you when you heard this news that Wendy and Eddie Osefo were arrested and were facing 16 um counts of fraud charges? I'm not going to go through all the information because at this point I'm sure that everyone has listened to their favorite YouTuber, their favorite blogger, their favorite TikToker who has talked about the details of this arrest. But I just want to say I am shocked. Like, Wendy was never my favorite on Real Housewives of Potomac. She was never my favorite. It was always Candace. I liked Robin until Robin kind of turned on Candace, and then for me it was just Candace. But I supported Wendy. I love that she gave looks. I love that she was educated, articulate, a dark skinned black woman who the other women couldn't take. I love that. But this is just so shocking. It is mind boggling, to say the least. And I have so many questions. I have so many questions like, why? Why did they do this? If in fact the allegations are true, because at this point they are still innocent until proven guilty. They've been brought up on charges, but we don't know what a good lawyer can do, okay? Because I was listening to Simone Redwine, and she is a lawyer. She does personal injury law, and she's familiar with, insurance law and all those things. And she, you know, put some points out there that if she was defending Wendy and Eddie in this case, there would be some things that she could argue. For example, she said that because Eddie is an attorney, they could argue that some of the communications between him and Wendy could be considered attorney client, privilege, right? Because Eddie was the one, it seems as if he was the one doing all the paperwork for these claims. So they could argue that. Um, she also said during her live that they could argue that they weren't trying to make three different claims. They weren't trying to make three different claims. It's just that they sent whatever information these three different insurance agencies asked them for. But then the flip side of that is, based on the allegations in these court documents, it would seem as if Eddie and Wendy knowingly were misleading the insurance company. I don't know, child. It's so much. And I can't for the life of me understand if they really did come up with this scheme, why they did it. Is it a case of keeping up with the Joneses gone wrong? I mean, they have three kids in private school. Three kids in private school. That's a hefty sum every term, every year. And on top of private school, these kids probably have extracurricular activities. I remember when my daughter was in ballet, there was a fee for the ballet class every month. Then I had to buy the tutu and the shoes and the stocking from the ballet school. And then when it was time for the recitals, you have to pay for the costumes. Then you have to pay to buy the tickets to go to the recital. So I can't imagine having three kids and having to pay for all these things. And on top of that, you're on the Real Housewives, and there's a certain image that you have to uphold. And if you downsize while you're on the show, then there's going to be questions. And if you are too prideful to say, well, we're going through some financial challenges, da 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 da, then you might start, no shade, robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep up with a certain lifestyle for TV. And it's just so unfortunate because Wendy did not have to leave her job at John Hopkins. She didn't have to. Real Housewives of Potomac, they filmed for like what, 3 months out of the year, and then you get paid based on how many episodes you're in. Eddie is an attorney. I don't know if he was practicing or if he wasn't practicing, why he wasn't practicing, so that that could be extra income. And I don't know why Wendy wasn't putting more effort into her YouTube. We see what Don Lemon and what's her name? Joan Reed, is that her name? We see what they're doing over there. Even Candace Owens, for God's sake. We see what they're doing over there on YouTube with their channels. Like Wendy has been a political commentator for how many years, even before the Real Housewives of Potomac. There's so much she could have been doing with her YouTube. People with less of a platform than Wendy, meaning people who are not on the Bravo platform, are on YouTube making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, even more, with their YouTube content. So I don't understand why this scheme was, if they really did this, why this scheme was necessary. Wendy's sister is a doctor. Couldn't you have asked your sister for a loan? Like, what's going on? What's going on? I am so, guys, when I tell you I am shocked. But then what is also disheartening is the response from some of her cast members. I was listening to one of my favorite YouTubers, and they said that some people from NECA's camp reached out to them and said that, NECA is like so happy right now. And I'm like, why? What makes you feel vindicated? There was nothing said during season what was it, 7. There was nothing said during season 7 of The Real Housewives of Potomac that would ever make us feel like Wendy was, you know, living paycheck to paycheck or broke or anything like that. So what really would NECA feel vindicated by? What, because they felt like during that season Wendy was fake? Like for me, I will continue to say, and I broke this down that season. NECA allowed Lebe, her cousin-in-law, to pull her into a beef that was brewing between Lebe and Wendy's sister. I think her name is Ivy. And Neka had no business jumping in between that beef. And Neka even said I met Wendy once in passing at a concert. We said hi, 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 and we went on our way. And that was years before Enika joined the Real Housewives of Potomac. So Wendy meets people in passing all the time. In what world should Nika have believed that Wendy definitely remembered who she was at the time when Wendy saw her at Ashley's home housewarming party? And if you felt like Wendy was on some BS, you should have said in that moment when Wendy said nice to meet you should have said, "Oh, you don't remember? We met at such and such concert, 2 years ago. I'm Levy's cousin-in-law. I'm getting married. My husband is her cousin." And then probably that would have jogged Wendy's memory. But instead, you were on some, "Oh, nice to meet you too." And then on top of that, Nika, when actually brought up this Osu conversation to you, you knowing how problematic it was, you didn't shut Ashley down. You decided that you were going to entertain the conversation and you were going to explain everything to Ashley. For what? Who the hell is Ashley? That you knowing in your culture how just gross that whole thing is. Why would you sit on national TV and even entertain it? And then Ashley goes back and she runs it back to Wendy as if Neka was saying that Wendy was Osu. And now Neka doesn't understand why Wendy's mother is calling the cousin in law and is going off. So Wendy's arrest doesn't change the fact that Neka, you allowed yourself to be used. Giselle and Robin, they were feuding with Wendy. And so now you go to them and you say, "Yeah, Wendy's mom called my cousin-in-law and she was saying something about brimfire and hellfire and all of that." And you didn't explain to those women that the reason Wendy's mom was upset was because Ashley was telling people that you were calling them Osu. And then you had Giselle and all these other people referring to Wendy's mom as a witch and a devil worshiper and all these things. So Wendy and Eddie might have done what they did, but Neka, during that season, you allowed yourself to be used as a pawn. What's going on with Wendy does not change that. Robin, you were nasty as hell to Wendy. You allowed Giselle to come to you with foolishness about this woman's marriage, and you never once pulled Wendy to the side and say, "Hey, this is what's being discussed behind your back." And y'all know that Wendy and Ashley weren't cool like that. They didn't have that level of rapport for Ashley to have been the one to go and have a sidebar with Wendy about allegations about her marriage. So when Wendy fired off on Giselle and Robin, you decided that you were going to hop in to defend your leader, and she fired off on you too. What are you mad about? Again, let's not rewrite history simply because of this arrest. Let's not. It was nasty work, Robin, for you to say, "Oh, I'm hosting a family fun day event and everybody's children are invited." And then you definitely, what you did in that moment was exclude Wendy's children. That was nasty work. Wendy's arrest does not change that that was some nasty work. Actually, you wanting to bring up these Osu rumors on this international platform that is Bravo was disgusting. Wendy never did anything to you for you to want to do that. Oh, because she said she had 4 degrees? Actually, let's not forget that it's Michael's white privilege Why you did not have to go through the embarrassment of watching your now ex-husband go to jail for sexually assaulting somebody. Because let's be clear, he did do that shit. We watched him on camera grope somebody else. And actually, you sat on that reunion stage in season 4 and shamed the victim of that assault. So I don't know why everybody's just so gleeful about what Wendy's going through as if they don't have skeletons in their closet. Actually, you should have been off of The Real Housewives of Potomac from season 1 when Michael groped that man. And definitely should have been off the show in season 4 when that other guy brought him to court for assaulting him. And Mia, oh my God, Mia, girl, with everything that's going on in your world, I don't know why you're kicking anybody while they're down. And then it's the audacity for me that you would sit on that TikTok and say, Wendy has been the only one to check on you this whole time, the only one to send you words of positivity. Even recently, a couple of days ago, she was texting you and she was telling you that, God got you. And then in the next breath, you're laughing at her. Reality TV is not a sisterhood. It's a dog eat dog type of environment. I don't hear anybody who's coming out talking saying, you know what? We don't really know what's going on. This is really unfortunate news, you know, but what's in the center of our brains right now is that they have 3 young children. And obviously, if they did do what they're accused of, they should have known that they had 3 young children and should have said, you know what, abort mission. But at the end of the day, these moms who are in the Bravo world, who are clowning and making jokes, it's like they forget they got 3 kids. And what seems, we don't want this to be the truth. We don't want this to be, we hope that they can some way, somehow get out of this. Because if they don't, the 2 of them are going to be behind somebody's jail bars. And now these 3 beautiful children are going to have to go some years without both their parents. And that should sadden everybody. I don't care how you feel about Wendy. I've seen people say, oh, she's pretentious. Oh, she acted like she was better than everybody. And I'm like, how? How? Giselle, who turned her nose up at everybody that comes on that show. The only person really and truly on that show who was ever down to earth was Candace and Robin. Robin came on the show. She said, look, I'm broke. I'm broke. It is what it is. And I wish that Wendy and Eddie had, if this is really what they did, if this is really the scheme that they came up with, I wish that they had thought this through a little bit better. At the least, pull a Justice Smollett. He got 2 people to beat him up or something. Because what the police are saying in that in that press conference, and I've heard people say a press conference for insurance fraud, like that is a lot. It's a lot. But the police are saying that when they went through the process of following the footsteps of these supposed thieves, they feel like it's impossible that their home was broken into. If the thieves had came through the roof like Wendy and Eddie claimed, and they would have had to step down on the toilet seat, and if they had come into the house, then there would have been debris. That's what the police officers are saying. We don't know if that's true or not. They're saying that they had ADT cameras and ring cameras and there was no movement on any of these devices. Maybe the devices weren't working. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the ring that they felt like they saw Wendy wearing after she claimed that it was stolen was a fake. Maybe she went and got a fake replica of her ring, because now they will have to go to a jeweler, the prosecution, the police officers, whatever the case may be. Wouldn't they now have to go to a jeweler and test the ring? Maybe the ring has serial numbers on it to see if it is the same ring. And if they presented a whole bunch of receipts to the insurance company, could their lawyer not claim like, okay, when they presented this receipt, they weren't they didn't organize the receipts. They just gave the insurance company a whole box of receipts. They didn't really check to see, okay, this receipt is from 2018. I had already returned that bag, or I had already returned that shoes. Like, this could all be a big misunderstanding, y'all. It really could be. I don't know how, but I'm rooting for them to get out of this. And for the people to say, oh, Wendy and Eddie are never gonna be on Bravo again. Hello? Theresa Judici, or whatever her name is. Remember they went to prison for fraud? And when Teresa came out, she had a whole spin-off, and then she was back on Real Housewives of New Jersey. Now, for Wendy and Eddie, it might be different because black people, we got pride. We know how to be embarrassed and how to feel embarrassed. And so perhaps, even if by some miracle Wendy and Eddie gets out of this, I think they themselves will choose not to be on Bravo. Not because the Bravo cameras don't want to follow this, but because they're embarrassed. And they don't want to have to deal with the questions. I don't think we're gonna see Wendy at the reunion, just like Karen didn't show up at the reunion. And I don't think that we are going to see Wendy on any Bravo stage in the upcoming future, because there's too many questions that she's going to need to answer. This is just so unfortunate. It is so unfortunate. So unfortunate. I'm embarrassed for them. Deeply embarrassed for them. And I hate that these Real Housewives of Potomac girls are using this as a moment to say all the things that they weren't saying before. Like, if you felt like Wendy was just so much of a fraud and was living above her means, y'all should have been saying that. I hope that y'all were saying that this whole season, because remember, Sunday was the first episode of season 10 of The Real Housewives of Potomac. So I hope that we're going to see all these women saying, "Oh my God, I just feel like what's going on with Wendy? She's da 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 da. She's looks like she's living above her means. What's going on with Happy Eddie? Are they really making money?" I hope we hear those conversations. I heard that they picked up the cameras because guess what? This is reality. And the reality is they did get arrested. The reality is these are the charges. I've thought about over and over, like, what do I want to say about this? And from Friday, I wanted to go live and I just didn't know what to say because I just feel like this is so sad. It's so sad. But that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts, y'all. I hope they can get out of this for the sake of their children. Guilty or not, I hope there's a way that they can get out of this for the sake of their children. Because if they end up going to jail, this is going to be so traumatic for their three young kids. I'm hopeful that they have a village that, will care for those kids in the best way possible. I hope that Wendy's saying that they have a trust fund for those children. I hope that they really did have a trust fund, and I hope that that trust fund is secure and cannot be touched by the government, however they set it up. I hope that it exists and that at the least those children will have that to fall back on in the future. And all this xenophobia that's going on right now, oh, they're Nigerians, da, 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 da. There are plenty Nigerians who are not out here scamming, committing fraud. I guess a lot of the people who are saying, oh, it's because they're Nigerians, I guess y'all don't watch American Greed. Because majority of the people who appear on American Greed are white men committing fraud at the highest degree. Okay? So being Nigerian has nothing to do with these allegations. So y'all need to stop it. And the people who are like, oh my God, they're going to be deported. Both Wendy and Eddie are American citizens. They were born in the USA. So at the least, do some fact check before y'all come on the people's internet and start saying some dumb stuff. I'm gonna keep Wendy's kids in my prayers on a serious note because again, this must be traumatic for them. They were arrested at home, which, unless Eddie and Wendy knew that the police were coming, I'm sure those kids were home um, on Thursday night when their parents got picked up. I'm praying for their children's mental health because kids are mean. And this is big news in Maryland right now. This is like, I saw somebody on TikTok showing that, like, in front of some building, like there was a ticker and the ticker was scrolling Wendy and Eddie Osefo arrested, like right in front of a building. So this is huge news right now in Maryland. I hear that the streets of Potomac are hot. They are hot. People tongues are wagging. This is like the biggest thing after Karen's arrest. This is like the second biggest thing that has happened in that state. And people are talking, which means kids who go to Eddie and Wendy's children's school, they're talking too. And kids can be mean. And so these babies are innocent. They don't know what their parents got going on. And so for that reason, I'm praying for their children's mental health and their strength through this time. However y'all feel about Wendy and Eddie, just remember that their babies are innocent. Their children are innocent. And just remember, karma is real. Karma is real. So be careful how you laugh and take joy in somebody else's downfall because karma will spin the block. Okay? So until my next video, y'all, please remember to like, share, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter now called X at How I See It, and on TikTok at How I See It TV. Until my next